Whoopi Goldberg thought she could say whatever she wanted about Elon Musk and get away with it. She thought she could sit on The View, throw out wild accusations, and move on like nothing happened. But this time, it backfired badly. Elon Musk wasn't having it. He slapped her with a defamation lawsuit so hard, it sent shockwaves through Hollywood. And when it all came crashing down in court, Whoopi Goldberg, the same woman who always acts untouchable, broke down in tears. And Joe Rogan, he dragged her. Let's rewind a bit. On an episode of The View, Goldberg went on a rant about Elon Musk, claiming, without evidence, that he was actively working behind the scenes to manipulate government policies for his own gain. She framed him as some kind of shadowy puppet master, pulling the strings of the US government to serve his personal empire. No facts, no proof, just dramatic accusations tossed out on daytime television. And you know how The View works. Once one host starts, the others jump in like a pack of hyenas. Joy Behar added her 2 cents. The audience clapped. The media ran with it. But this wasn't just another ridiculous rant from The View. This was slander. Elon Musk, a man with unlimited resources and an army of lawyers, wasn't going to let it slide. So he took action. When Musk filed a defamation lawsuit against Goldberg, Hollywood lost it. The elites in media are used to saying whatever they want with zero consequences. They think they can attack whoever they please, and if they get called out, they just ignore it or issue a half-hearted apology. Not this time. The lawsuit forced Whoopi Goldberg into a position she never expected, one where she was the one being held accountable. She had to sit in a courtroom and defend her reckless words. And let's just say, it didn't go well. In what might be one of the most humiliating moments of her career, Goldberg was forced to face the consequences of her own lies. Under the pressure of real legal scrutiny, her confidence shattered. She broke down in tears, admitting that she regretted making the claims. Regretted it? No kidding. Turns out, when you're sitting behind a desk on The View, throwing out baseless accusations is easy. When you're sitting in a courtroom with lawyers grilling you, whole different story. But here's the best part. Joe Rogan wasn't about to let this moment pass without calling it exactly what it was. Enter Joe Rogan. On the Joe Rogan Experience, he tore into Goldberg's meltdown and exposed the double standards in mainstream media. His main point? If a conservative figure had done what Goldberg did, their career would be over. Imagine if a right-leaning commentator went on air and falsely accused a major public figure of manipulating the government. The backlash would be insane. They'd be demonetized, deplatformed, canceled from every event, and forced into obscurity. But when it's Whoopi Goldberg, the media just shrugs. This is the exact hypocrisy that's driving people away from legacy media and into independent platforms like Rogan's. Because here's the truth, mainstream media personalities don't care about facts. They care about control. They don't want balanced discussions. They don't want debate. They want to shape public perception however they see fit, and they want people like Elon Musk to sit down, shut up, and take it. Musk said no, and now Goldberg is paying the price. This entire debacle is a perfect example of why independent voices like Joe Rogan are winning. Rogan doesn't rely on corporate interests or network executives telling him what he can and can't say. He just tells the truth, and people respect him for it. And that's why his platform is massive, while The View is hemorrhaging viewers. And people are sick of being lied to. They're sick of hypocritical media figures throwing stones from glass houses. And they're definitely sick of watching celebrities pretend to be journalists while pushing whatever narrative their side demands. The Goldberg-Musk lawsuit was a turning point because it showed that the old way, where media elites could say anything and never face consequences, is crumbling. Accountability is coming. And The View, it's looking shakier than ever. This entire Whoopi Goldberg debacle isn't some isolated event. It's just another example of The View's slow, painful collapse. Once upon a time, The View was a relevant talk show that at least pretended to offer different perspectives. It had hosts from various backgrounds and viewpoints, engaging in actual discussions. It wasn't perfect, but it was watchable. Now, it's a glorified echo chamber where a handful of out-of-touch elites spend an hour talking down to the rest of America. The show has become notorious for its hostility toward conservatives, independent thinkers, and anyone who dares to challenge the mainstream narrative. Every episode follows the same script. find a conservative or independent figure to attack, make baseless accusations with zero evidence, smugly mock anyone who disagrees, get applause from a pre-programmed audience. And when they're called out, they play the victim every single time. Whoopi's meltdown in court was just the latest example of The View's toxic formula finally backfiring. But let's be honest, this was inevitable. Goldberg has built her entire post-Hollywood career on being an untouchable media personality. She speaks with authority, despite rarely knowing what she's talking about. She throws accusations like candy, expecting zero pushback. But when real consequences come knocking, she suddenly crumbles. This isn't the first time Whoopi has landed in hot water for her reckless remarks. In 2022, she made deeply offensive comments about the Holocaust, claiming it wasn't about race. The backlash was massive, yet she barely faced consequences. Just a short suspension before being welcomed back like nothing happened. She has repeatedly smeared public figures with misleading narratives, knowing full well her statements will never be fact-checked by the mainstream media. It's the same old Hollywood privilege. Say whatever you want, apologize when forced, and go right back to the same behavior. But thanks to Elon Musk, this time was different. Joe Rogan's takedown of Whoopi wasn't just about her, it was about the bigger picture. For years, the mainstream media controlled everything. They dictated public perception. They decided who was credible and who wasn't. They held the power to destroy reputations with a single headline. But now, that power is slipping. Podcasters like Joe Rogan, independent journalists, and citizen reporters on social media have completely changed the game. They're not bound by corporate interests or ideological filters. They ask the real questions and expose the lies. And that's exactly why Rogan's audience is millions of times larger than The View's. People want the truth. They want real discussions, not propaganda. Whoopi Goldberg and her co-hosts still haven't figured that out, which is why The View is slowly turning into a relic of the past. Elon Musk is the perfect symbol of everything. The View and the mainstream media fear. Why? Because he's completely independent. He owns X, formerly Twitter, meaning he controls one of the largest platforms for free speech on the planet. He isn't beholden to advertisers, politicians, or media elites. He actually challenges the establishment instead of bowing to it. That's why Goldberg and her ilk hate him. Musk represents a world where legacy media no longer controls the narrative, a world where their lies can and will be called out. And now that he's shown he's willing to sue over defamation, media elites are starting to panic. For decades, they've been able to say whatever they want, knowing no one would fight back. But if more public figures start taking the legal route, game over. One thing is abundantly clear. The View has an obsession with attacking people who think for themselves. It's not just Elon Musk. They relentlessly bashed Donald Trump for years, branding him every negative thing imaginable. They attacked Joe Rogan himself, spreading misinformation about him during the COVID era. They mocked conservatives like Candace Owens, Ben Shapiro, and Ron DeSantis without ever actually debating them. Why? Because these people don't need legacy media. They've built their own platforms. They're successful without Hollywood's approval, and nothing scares the establishment more than people who can't be controlled. One of the most laughable aspects of The View is how they pretend to be champions of women's empowerment, while actively tearing down any woman who doesn't fit their political agenda. If a woman aligns with their ideology, they'll praise her endlessly. But if she's a conservative, independent, or even slightly critical of their views, they mock her, they call her names, they dismiss her opinions as uninformed. Where was their women supporting women energy when they attacked figures like Caroline Leavitt? Where was it when they mocked conservative women in politics? It's all a facade. They don't care about uplifting women, they care about pushing a narrative. And that's why more and more people, including liberals, are calling out their hypocrisy. The fallout from Whoopi's Musk lawsuit proves one thing. People are done taking the mainstream media at their word. They're tuning out of The View, they're moving away from CNN and MSNBC, and they're turning to independent media because that's where the real conversations are happening. Just look at the numbers. The View has been hemorrhaging viewers for years. Their ratings are in a steady decline. CNN had its worst ratings in history in 2023. Meanwhile, podcasts like the Joe Rogan Experience continue to dominate. The message is clear. The era of mainstream media dominance is over. And Whoopi Goldberg just became the perfect cautionary tale of what happens when media elites push too far. Whoopi Goldberg thought she could smear Elon Musk and walk away untouched. She thought her status in Hollywood would protect her. She thought no one would dare to challenge her. But she was wrong, and Elon Musk put his foot down. Joe Rogan exposed the hypocrisy. And now Whoopi Goldberg's credibility is in tatters. The world is changing. The era of unchecked media power is coming to an end. And for Goldberg, this might just be the beginning of a long, painful wake-up call.